clicks on it and then does it?
Well, I mean, at first I'm hoping everyone will share it from the source, so I'm not sure if that'll be Cascadia or Reefy-Wa. Do you have
Okay.
an opinion on it?
So
So, I mean, it's great if people share it from yours, but it's better if they share it from the source video, you know?
I'm gonna give you
I don't know
your-
if we can control that.
your family
well, all we need to do is, if you wanna just, like, put something, hey, go on this website, and then we'll just, copy and paste it on the form that we give out
Yeah.
with our data.
Yeah.
And then while we're doing the data thing, we just tell, if you could just take a brief moment right now.
Just forgot.
Pick up your phone.
Yeah, but also interact with each other's, right?
Yeah.
Like the way how the Facebook algorithms work, they have to see that a post is causing people to talking connect in
Yes.
order to.
Yeah.
And I'll boost it. I'll pay some money to boost it. We'll just see if we're even able to make a thing go viral. I don't even know. I've never successfully done that before. Except maybe I did. One time I did. I wrote a bio for a deaf dog that was returned to our shelter, and it went viral, and over 14 million people read it. And then every single dog in our shelter was adopted. Like 49 dogs found homes. Like it just cleaned out all of our backlog of dogs. So I mean, the power of like a post that gets great visibility.
And the networking. So if you like, just to kind of have that brief wording on there,
Yeah.
Before they even, because some people will not click unless they see something, just say, please check out this, for hunger, whatever, for every child meal. And then just put that there, 2 lines, and then the link on the bottom, and then we can encourage them to go look for the full, thing on the link.
Yeah. Well, it'll be on Facebook.
During the drive, and on,
Yeah.
for those that have access to the Facebook.
Yeah. And then I assume we'll do it on Instagram and other things too.
Yeah,
But
that'd be
I'm
awesome.
just gonna let you know, as far as yesterday went, nothing started exactly on time. Just everyone's coming down for breakfast, so we'll probably give it a after.
I saw Farmer Frost yesterday. They were presenting. I didn't stick around for most of it because, they're my besties. I know all about it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't watch it either because I watched something about farming and the impact of COVID on farming.
It was so amazing because I walked into a room and there is a presentation on this food hub, East African food hub place, and it's like blocks away from my house. It's like in my neighborhood. I had never heard of it.
Oh, wow.
We make halal boxes. And we do all these things that just sort of overlap with what they're doing, and they're our neighbors. And I never would have thought about that. I just walked by a room while I was serious.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Jill, I thought what I would do is ask who's here in the room, like growers or not. Jeremy, I'm just gonna use your first name.
Yes, Jeremy.
How do you pronounce it?
Bravely.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Nice to meet you.
I mean, whenever I say his name, I always sign language it like without thinking.
And I'm actually pronouncing it incorrectly. It's in the Czech last name. I met a guy from Czech Republic. Oh, it's probably. I'm like, no, dude, no. I've been pronouncing it this way for far too long.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Siempre les digo,
It's 9:30. I'll give it another minute or two since breakfast was involved and everyone walks down slowly.
Yeah, I had the best time here yesterday. Like,
Yeah?
I used to help put on conferences, but I had never just been like an attendee. And an attendee with knowledge who like knew people, like so I would see virtually for the last few years.
Yeah.
It felt like I was so excited.
Oh, yay. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, I was elated. I went home feeling really
Awesome.
Yeah, for those similar reasons. Like I've only been here an hour, but I've already had some conversations with people and same things, yeah.
If you want to get started, that'll probably bring people in. That's how it works. First, I just wanted to say there's 2 cars that are parked in the COVID testing area. A gray Subaru with license plate ABX9252 and a black Lexus BUG 9758. You may be towed if that's you. So.
Well, welcome everyone. Can you hear me?
Bring it closer to you.
Oh.
Yeah, and Diana, just real quick, I will, we have interpretation going in the room, so if you hear speaking, that's what it is, just to give you a heads up. Thank you.
Yeah, we're grateful for the interpretation. I'm Diane Dempster.
I don't think it's on.
Oh, it's not?
Or it doesn't sound like it's on.
Yes.
It is on? Okay.
It's on. Okay.
Maybe it's.
My name's Diane Dempster, and I'm with East West Food Rescue. I'm also on the board of TILF Alliance, so welcome all. Thank you for coming. Today we have a pretty exciting presentation. Jill and Jeremy of Cascadia Veg will talk about their work in supplying emergency food. Thea and Vicky will talk about their recipients of some of the food that Cascadia sources and Cascadia buys from Amy and Augustine Moreno Sills and the growers. So we're going to hear from everyone today. The goal is to have us all learn about the emergency food distribution network that has come up with the pandemic and how growers can grow specifically for that market. So it's a brand new market and one that's emerging. So before we get started, I'd like to raise a hand. How many growers do we have in the audience? Oh, great. Okay. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jill and to Jeremy, and they will talk a little bit about their program.
Okay, I don't know if I keep my mask on to present or not. I guess I do.
You're welcome to take your mask off if you'd like, and the microphone is super helpful too, if you wanna.
All right.
Yeah, it's hard to hear back here, so
Yeah.
please talk through the microphone.
Okay.
You get it kind of close to you.
Okay, so our presentation is on a new market that has emerged with the pandemic, and that is emergency food boxes. They're not always boxes. We're going to use the term boxes a lot because up until now, with the contact-free distribution, boxes have been the form that they have been taking. But this is an ever-changing environment. It could just as easily be bulk produce. It could take a myriad of forms over the next year or two as this program finds continuity within the state. So. And when the pandemic sort of happened in, let's say, March 2020, there were 2 news stories on the television. One of them was long lines at food banks, and the other one was, fields being disked because the farmers couldn't send their normal crops into restaurants, and all of the avenues of sales that farms had been, using for decades were suddenly closed off, and they couldn't kind of switch lanes into grocery production. So there was all this available food, and there was people going hungry, and these two images were on the same television screen. So the government mobilized really quickly, and they came up with that USDA food box program. USDA, Farmers to Families. That program was amazing and terrible, right? It delivered a great volume of food to people, but it also prioritized low costs, and was the same week after week, and people were so grateful to receive this food, and yet who can eat a 2-pound tub of cottage cheese week after week after week? Cascadia was delivering at great volume. We won a very large contract, and we were delivering up to 200,000 food boxes per month to every single county within Washington state. We had farms doing our box production. So we set up a box production. This means that we had, let's say, 12 items going into a box. You bring your pallets of food around a rolling table, and you make a production line, and you put, you have a dozen people putting items into boxes, taping, putting it on a pallet, and sending it out to distribution points. These distribution points were often in parking lots, and they were, or churches, or really just anywhere with an open space. And a semi would drop off a number of pallets, and then distribution partners, such as Thea and Vicki of Lend a Hand, would facilitate a contact-free distribution of these food boxes. What's interesting about this is the same amount of people were still using food banks, right? So we thought, or the government thought, that they were covering food insecurity through the existing food bank system. And the pandemic unearthed that there are literally 1 million+ people in Washington state that are food insecure, but who are not using traditional systems because of maybe ID requirements, maybe language barriers, maybe pride. A variety of reasons kept people from accessing food that they need. And instead they were subsisting on just the cheapest possible, dry goods, whatever they could afford. They were scraping by. They were certainly not seeing fresh local produce. So when the USDA Farmers to Family food box ended, that left hundreds of thousands of people without a way to get food in Washington state. Jobs were coming back, but they were changing. Things weren't the same. Inflation is already occurring, right? So the same job that could get you by on $15 an hour can no longer sustain you because the prices of groceries have gone up. The prices of transportation have gone up. Just society has started to cost more. The state, Washington state, saw that there was a gap there and stepped in a way that other states didn't. Like, other states don't have the benefit of these programs. But our legislators did look around and say, we can't leave all these people with no options. And so they developed their own state program. That program is called We Feed WA, and it is in its second iteration today. There are other programs as well. There are United Way of King County has a food box program. Nourishing Neighborhoods of Snohomish County has a food box program. Food bank level food box programs. There are a myriad of food box programs. They are not all the same. They all have different levers that they pull on. Some of them want to source food specifically from the county that the food is going to. That is a requirement of some of them. When we negotiate a contract, we put a holdout in for small farm or local produce because we just personally feel it's really important to support Washington farms. I'm sure you do. I mean, obviously you do too, but the population in Washington state has gone up 12% over the same period that farms have reduced by 5%. So we're growing at a rate that in population that is not sustained by the amount of food we grow in our agriculturally rich state. And farmers are aging. Farmers are getting older. and they're mostly old white guys, to be honest. So we're looking for a way to help small or medium-sized farms grow to whatever size they want to grow to and enter a wholesale market that will allow them to spend less time selling their goods, doing marketing and doing the part of their job that isn't farming, and spend more time envisioning the farms that they want to have and creating that future. We want to enable that. Tell them about Cascadia.
We want to enable it, and we've had some pretty great success with actually following through with that. Cascadia came about as I had been in produce at working at a produce company, a wholesaler, for about 20 years, and I decided that it was going in a direction that I didn't necessarily want to go in. I wanted to be more localized, and really a lot of the work that I had done there was selling into Cisco Food Services, finding local farms in the state, and going through the auditing process with them for food safety, third-party audits, and getting them into that larger distribution network there. So for the most part, these were larger farms, though. This was Anava out of Wapato. This is Storino out of Puyallup. This is Mosby out of Auburn, and Carpenito in Kent. These are, big name farms that already had outlets for a lot of their produce. They were growing hundreds to thousands of acres, and so going through and branching off onto my own, I was able to continue that work. And then, of course, with the pandemic and the adjustments to the programs now with Wheat Feed Wa, or with the inception of it, and really being able to support local farms, we found a way that we can support small farms with these food boxes after going through the Farmers to Family and supporting a lot of very large farms. That didn't necessarily need that support, but we're here to support any farm, right? But there were farms that were being left behind by that program, just because of the cost basis for it. It was absolute bottom price is what was the contract. So with Wheat Feed Wa, we worked with the state and said, look, you need to be able to support your local farms. You need to support your small local farms, and so we've got that with the Snohomish County program. We're supporting Snohomish farms. So every box that goes out for the Snohomish program has Snohomish grown produce in it, and they're not large farms. Although there is the state classifies a small farm as $250,000 in revenue or less. A success story with the Snohomish County program. We started working with a farm that was a small farm. He now does not categorize himself as a small farm because of that. And it's been because we've been able to purchase a myriad of products from him to put into the boxes, to then go back into Snohomish County and feed the people of Snohomish County. And it's been working that same way with the Wheat Feed Wa boxes. There's a farm that has 5 acres in Enumclaw. And he's actually looking at purchasing more land to do more growing for next season because of what we were able to accomplish with him for this season.
Let's pause and watch a video from Francis. So this is the farm in Enumclaw that he was just talking about. This is Francis and Elizabeth of Faith Beyond Farms. And I will start out that when I started looking for small farm produce, we were specifically looking for BIPOC, woman-owned, or small farms. And I called a lot, and it was growing season, and people were busy, and they didn't necessarily call me back, right? And I was like, no, I'm trying to buy everything that you have for a top price, like, please call me back. But they were busy, and they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know what this program was. So that's why I'm here. because I want people to know it exists, and I want people to call us and ask us what's going on and explore the part of the kind of art of the possible, finding out where farms are, what product they have, how much they can give us, right? How much, or is it, can they deliver it? Like, we need to connect with as many farms as possible and find out where it makes sense to include their product. So Francis and Elizabeth really did take a leap of faith with us. They took my cold call and they were like, yes, we'll sell you what we have. And I believe they sold us everything they had all growing season from their 5-acre farm.
It's a good afternoon. This is Elizabeth and Francis of Faith Beyond Farms. And Cascadia coming to us to partner with us and support what we do as small-scale farmers has enabled us to sell our produce this year, 2021, in such a fantastic way. And there is no waste on our grounds because the food has found a box to go. The WSDA boxes to be able to channel the foods we grow on our fields to the people who need them most. And we are happy to be partnering with this. And we are grateful to do it. So receive those boxes with a lot of thanksgiving.
So that's been a really wonderful partnership. But they're a small farm. Obviously, they can't supply all of what we need. You know, we bring a truck out there and we might have 400, zucchini and 200 pounds of potatoes and, 90 clamshells of cherry tomatoes. We pick those up from that farm and we use it week after week. And now Francis and Elizabeth are looking into expanding their farm to a 20-acre farm nearby. So we're not the only company that has these contracts. Like, many people have these contracts. Charlie's has these contracts, Pacific Coast Fruit has these contracts. Many people have them. And you have to pitch what your price is and what is going into your box. But we have formed a philosophy that allows us to include small farm items and still keep our box price low. And let me show you how that works.
The balance that we work out is that we're all taxpayers, right? And the taxes that I pay, I want to go and I want them to be spent in the most appropriate manner possible. But we're also in business too, and so we have to make sure that our business continues to run, along with we have to make sure that all of the farms continue to grow. And so we find that we work real hard to find the sweet spot in between all of it, right? And so in working with smaller farms, multiple small farms, it takes a lot of fitting the puzzle pieces together correctly. As you can see up here, if we did a production run of 10,000 boxes, we can source from smaller farms to be able to go into those boxes. So for one of those line items, you got 12 items in the box, you got one line item that's designated as the small farm item. We try to do more if possible, but again, we're working within a budget. But they're smaller farms, right? And so when we send a truck over to Francis's farm, there's no dock, there's no, he doesn't have a barn, he's got a small structure out there. We back the truck down a gravel road. We bring our own pallet. We bring him reusable plastic crates that he washes, puts the product in, and then it goes onto the pallet. Our driver loads it in the back of the truck and brings it back to the warehouse. So it'll give us, what do we have in here? We have 400 acorn squash. Well, for a run of 10,000 boxes, 400 acorn squash is just a small amount, and so we'll find another farm that fits in to that same line item, and then another farm. So we've got Sky Island, and we've got or multiple items from Francis. So not every box is always the same that we build, but we'll always have that line item that shows here's a small farm that's being supported. And understanding the economy of scale with the farm, if we were to purchase the other 9,000 items, let's say acorn squash from, say, Carpenito Brothers in Kent, it's going to be cheaper. Bigger farms are producing food more cheaply. So that helps to offset the cost of what we can afford to pay the smaller farm. As you can see up here, we're paying them $2 a box, or $2 a unit. Whereas for Carpenito, what their asking prices is only $1. So we're able to mitigate that across the whole box. It ends up being $1.10 for that item. The true cost to us for what goes into the box, the true cost that then goes off to the state. But we supported that small farm. And we still supported the big farm at the price that they expect to get too. So it's that puzzle piece that works together, and it's how small farms can get into it. And there may need to be explanation done to packing houses, but if you go in armed with this information and this possibility of how it's done, not just possibility, this reality of how we do it, then it can be a sales point of saying, look, you can support me, you can put my name on your website, on your Facebook page, whatever, and it can still be something that makes sense business-wise, but it makes sense business-wise for everybody involved. It makes sense for that small farm, it makes sense for the large farm, it makes sense for the packing house, it makes sense for the people receiving the food, because that's going to be, if we're talking about a box that comes out every week, it's going to be different every week. And most of the time when you're going to the store, you're not buying the same thing over and over and over and over. That was the USDA Farmers to Family program. A gallon of milk every week, 2 pounds of yogurt every week. With this, it's more of, you're going to get a produce item, and you don't necessarily know what it's going to be, and it varies. And so it presents more of a regularized shopping experience. But then also, the benefit is to the state. The state gets to then say, we've got a program that is supporting a 5-acre farm in Enumclaw and helping them to grow. The Washington State Department of Agriculture is helping small farms get bigger. It's helping to invest in the future of those farms and the future of this state being able to feed its people. And it's doing it at a cost that makes sense to be able to continue these contracts. And so this can then go off to the legislature, who's going to appropriate the funds to continue programs like this.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great place to move on, and maybe we can ask Amy and Augustine to talk about their experience with this program. So they're the owners of 4 Elements Farm in Puyallup, and have been farming for 6 years. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Diane. So we started our farm in 2015, I think. We've been farming for 10 years previous to that for other folks. But like with the example of the small farm that is not a small farm anymore, we were also in that category. So pre-COVID, we were in that small farm category, and as a result of some of these COVID relief programs, we're not anymore. And it's made a big impact not only on our lives as farm owners, but on our employees' lives as far as their wages go. And I think one of the other interesting points is that pre-COVID, we had emergency food organizations come to us asking us for donations. And while we always wanted to do that, because in general, small farmers really want to help other folks all the time, so we can't afford it, or you just get our scraps, or the logistics of it are too costly, and the scraps are better just thrown in the field as compost. But now we're actually getting calls from folks like Jill wanting to buy stuff from us. And I think one of the main things for farmers to know about these programs is that every organization is going to be different in their needs and how they work with folks and their philosophy. And one of the main things I've learned from working with Cascadia is that they're still good people in the produce world. You know, we were getting pretty jaded. Definitely not quitting or anything, but you know, we were becoming pretty jaded with the business of produce in the wholesale market, and Cascadia came along with this program. And for folks that have sold produce before, getting $2 a bunch for radishes, you know how that's a phenomenal price. If you're used to farmers markets, maybe you don't realize that, but it really is an excellent wholesale price. It's probably double or more than what you would normally get from a wholesaler. So we've been really fortunate in that. And I'm kind of losing focus here. What would be helpful to?
I think to just talk about what has worked and if there's been any drawbacks to the program you're working with.
Yeah, so what works really well is setting communications up front. You know, like I said, negotiating price, what people expect of you, and what you can supply. So that's a major point, is that every organization is going to have products that they can buy and products that they can't buy. We cannot move our dandelion greens to save our lives to Cascadia, but Charlie's will buy them all day long. So you got to know that while you're planning. So say you have a conversation with Jill and Jeremy and you're like, okay, let's do something for next season. Have that conversation. What can you buy and how do you need it packaged? So for example, some Cascadia right now, in our personal situation with them, they need things in units. So a bunch of this, a bunch of that, I can't sell them a 25-pound bag of beets. It doesn't work for their system at this moment in time. So it's like a conversation that you have to have with them and make sure that you're not growing stuff that it will be hard to move. And I think, and then the logistics is really important. So I think Jill touched on this, which is, can you get it to them? Can they come to you? What are the logistics, and does it pencil out for everybody involved? So before you plant an acre of something, make sure that you're going to be able to package it and wash it as they need it, and have those conversations with how to wash it. So whatever your standards are may not be what their standards are. They may be more, they may be less, but have those conversations, like get down to the nitty-gritty. Another thing is the requirements. So what kind of insurance do you need? Do you need for food safety certifications? Do you need other certifications? Just what are all the requirements? So get everything talked through in the beginning, because everyone's going to have a different set of needs or desires for that. You want to make sure you have that. And I think another thing to also remember is that everything's so new. You know, like I say, pre-COVID, this didn't really exist. People were wanting us to give them stuff for free, and now they can't seem to get enough of it and pay for it. So as farmers, we're in a super great position here. It's like, finally, yes, please pay us for our food. Fantastic. And it also fills that need, not that need, but that desire that a lot of us have to want to help other people. You know, when we started our farm, you know, we were the low-income people. We were the people going to the food banks and like getting food from the farm we worked at. You know, and that was the, you know, and other various garbage. And so, I mean, not the farm that we worked at was garbage, but you know,
No, I know what you mean.
But you know, and we wanted, when we started our farm, you know, like all doe-eyed, we wanted to be able to provide that for our own low-income community, and then we quickly realized we will never be able to pay our bills if we do that. So let's go market to the high-income people, which sucks your soul, but is also necessary. So this is just a great thing to get into, and but the thing to remember where I was going with this is that they're kind of volatile. Like, you just never know where they're going to go. So in September, you may be thinking some things are going to go a certain way, but they're going to go a different way, and then you have to, just like farmers do, you just have to kind of scramble and figure out what to do with your product, or try to figure out more product. But just to know that it's so new. It's not a set of rules, and things are constantly changing, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I think that before we get too much further on, we should hear from the recipients of all of this food, which is Lend a Hand, is a community organization that gives food away and do a tremendous service to all of us. So Thea Tato and Vicky, I forget your last name. Navarro, sorry. They're going to tell you about their program.
Hi everyone, how are you?
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Jill and Jeremy for this, and Diane for this amazing opportunity. I mean, this is our first time at a TILT conference, by the way, but we have been looking forward to this time with everything that we have going on with what we do out there in the community. It's just, you know, it's a lot, but we always find time to balance things out. So being here is such an honor, and to sit in a conference room and just talk about ways on how we can better serve our community and how we can keep the operation going. So with that said, Fia Taito, I am the director of Lend a Hand Community Outreach. We are a nonprofit here in the Pacific Northwest. I would say a specific city, but we are in Seattle, Washington, so why not Pacific Northwest it is. Our mission as a nonprofit organization is to bring relief and hope to the communities that we serve and who are in need. Our vision as a corporation is that every underserved community in the Pacific Northwest will have access to sustainable, healthy, and nutritious food. And that's where, of course, we're Cascadia Produce and our farmers. Great to meet you, Amy, for the first time. I've heard some great things about you, and I think I've seen a video of you, right? Yes. So, our work and operation is that we mobilize and transport food donations that we do receive from organizations like East West Food Rescue with Diane, and as well as with Cascadia Produce, and of course our behind the scene folks that do work together. You know, a lot of these things that we don't really see the scope of what's happening behind the scene, right? While folks like us are out there in the mission field to mobilize food. We are not a food bank, but we are a mobile food distribution agency is what we consider to call ourselves, to say the least. But that's what we do. We receive donations from several other organizations. Right now we are currently partnering up with about 18 other nonprofits, including some businesses, of course, folks like Jill and Jeremy, Diane with East West Food Rescue. But we have, in the last year, just last year alone, in the 3 months period that we've started the whole, as we call it, the food movement, we had no idea that what we were getting ourselves into, but it sort of started from a random email. At the time of early on of pandemic, I for myself, and then of course Vicky Navarro will share, you know, her what she does with our organization as well. But nobody knew what was coming, right? But I do know this, that as an individual, I have a passion to serve and to help people in every way possible. It doesn't matter whether they are in need of food or in some kind of way that we are on the lookout to serve the need, right? And whatever that need is. If we do have it, we'll be happy to provide it. But anyhow, just in the last year period of our service, in the 3 months period, while working with Jill and Jeremy in getting the food that we were receiving, mind you, we were getting from a random email, which what led to semi trucks. When I had a conversation with one of our leads just before meeting Jill and Jeremy, they were saying, can you take semis? And I just, no hesitation, no nothing, say, yes, sure, I'll take it. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. All I knew is that the keyword was food. It didn't matter whether it was coming on a semi, but as they were saying, can you receive a semi of, you know, of food that's coming, and said yes. And then later to find out, after hanging up the phone, we're talking about 2,400 food boxes that were being sent from these semis, which this is where I met Jill, who was also coordinating getting these semis to us. So one thing is that the crazy part is that we have no facility. So I was operating, getting this food, and just before the whole semi thing came into place, I was collecting food from like some of the local food banks that we were getting food from, because I was starting to, you know, see the need of families and friends that I knew of that needed the food. And so I had to take my Durango, and believe it or not, the food that was coming out of this Durango was unbelievable. I literally have no idea how 60 and 70 food boxes fit in that Durango, you know. So
fast forward, getting these semis, without no hesitation, we were operating from what had started from a 1-day operation to a 2-day, to a 3-day, to a 4-day, 5 days. Believe it or not, some days were 7 days. My family were like looking at us like, look at me. Mom, what are you doing? And so these semis are coming with the food boxes. You do the math, 2,400 times 5-7 days. That adds up to what? 106, no. You do the math, 2,400 times. But these food was, they weighed about 32,000 plus. It can go up to like 40,000 pounds of food that are delivered every week, times that by 70. I know it adds up to like 160 or 170,000, up to 200,000 pounds every single week. And believe it or not, every time these semis are coming in, as Jill is sending these semis over, the food gets moved right away, the same day, because we don't have no facility. So the goal is us as the recipients of this food, it has to what? It has to go. So that was the drive. But the goal is, what we weren't looking at the semis, we were looking at people are in need. There has to be a reason why these food are coming to us. So we took that as a privilege and as a blessing to receive the abundance that we were getting, that there's a need. And so we were motivated by the mentality of as the food is coming. But anyhow, that's us as recipient. But our work is, thankfully, that my husband also runs, he operates. That's the blessing, all in, coming together, is that we were fortunate to have a trucking business, right? So the trucking was able to get, as the numbers of these food boxes were coming in, we had to figure out, because there ain't no way that Durango was going to take all that 250,000 pounds of food within that week period. So I had to convince my husband that there's a need, honey, there's a pandemic, people are not able to come out. So, you have to direct people and give the, anyhow. So thankfully we were able to utilize our trucking service to mobilize the food, transporting them from one area to the other. And so right now we are currently serving in the King County, Pierce, Thurston, Kitsap. Believe it or not, we made our way all the way down to Vancouver. There was a high need there that I had no idea, not even the people in the community. We were there serving, and families were just coming up and we're like, what is this? Where is this? Where? But as they were receiving the food boxes, incredibly, as they opened the food box, these are things, you're talking about potatoes, cabbage, these good quality food items that they were receiving in this amazing, well box, put in box, that as the families are looking like tears. We find families that are like just so amazed with what they were getting for absolutely no cost, free, right? And so these are things that, testimonies that we hear from people, like, these are things we spent like approximately about $300 to $400 that we would spend for grocery items alone. So us being out there representing on your behalf as farmers, as organizations like Cascadia, East West Food Rescue, Amy, it takes a community, right? It takes that's our move, is that it takes a community to raise a community. So that's kind of like, little background of what we do. But we also act as a hub to, flow emergency food to a lot of city or districts, counties, so to speak, to places like, if you're familiar with Auburn, Enumclaw, Puyallup, Bremerton, Lacey, Lakewood, Tacoma, Roy, Vancouver, Renton, Federal Way, I don't know, it's like pretty much almost a little bit of everyone that is able to come for us to serve. In less than a year since the pandemic began, we were amazed with the number. But I know that this is just a little scope of what we have calculated, because we have done some data. We had to do our work too to see how many families we were feeding. But in less than a year alone, over 70 million pounds of food were supplied to assist over 1.5 million Washingtonians that depended on our services. Now, when I say our services, it's not just lend a hand. I'm talking about East West Food Rescue. I'm talking about Cascadia. I'm talking about Amy. I'm talking about, if you had a part in, helping people during these times, you are playing a part in it as well. So, I mean, that's just something that I wanted to share with you. I mean, we also, as Lend a Hand, we have about 7 consistent team members that we also work with, and then that's including Sister Vicky, and with volunteers that comes and serves at our events that we do, over 343 volunteers that have served with us during our events that we do. So I'll turn this time over to Vicky Navarro, who will also be sharing a little bit about the distribution side, and then everything else and how many people we serve.
And we just have a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yep. So my name is Vicky Navarro. I'm not gonna use that. I have pretty a loud voice because I use that every day when I'm out in the distribution field. But I just want to share, like, if you can imagine, like, if you were in a concert, you see millions of people. Now imagine if you're at a food distribution and you see the same amount of people. It's not about the excitement, but it's about your heart, that you know, like, all these people that come here needs food, you know, day after day. We serve 7 days a week, 5 days, 7 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? Saturday, Sunday. Doesn't matter what day. But these families here, they need food, you know. During the pandemic in the beginning, there was no school. These kids were depending on the school food, healthy food, you know. And so when they hear about Lend a Hand being mobile, we have to be in the need of the underserved community. We cannot just say, hey, let's just stay in Seattle. Hey, let's stay in Federal Way. Hey, let's stay in Renton. But what about the rest of the communities who need the food? You know, the fresh produce, you know, everything that they need from their daily needs. We need to take care of one another, you know. For me, when I am the first one they see as they roll in their car, and you say, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You don't know how much you are helping my family today. That $10 of whatever you have that you're saving me, I can buy some diapers for my grandchild, right? I know, because I've been serving the community for 16 years, with Lend a Hand Community Outreach, I hear all these stories and you just feel them. So I am also a community navigator within Lend a Hand Community Outreach, provide other resources just besides food, because you don't know what the needs are in the community unless you are in it, unless you feel it, you know. So this is how I support our community, is just being in the field with Lend a Hand Community Outreach, with our partners here, like, hey, we need more of this, we need more of this. We need to hear and feel the community in order to support one another. So with Lend a Hand Community Outreach, we are on Facebook. We have 27,000 followers right now. You see hundreds and hundreds of cars coming into our events. And you just know, like, we have to keep going. Nothing will stop us. When we partner with our women, we partner together, we're stronger together, and we know that we have to make a difference in our community, especially at these times. You know, we have children out there who need fresh produce, who need healthy meals, who need different type of diversity type food in our community, right? There's also other needs besides just food. People need support with utility assistance. People are getting homeless. You know, things are happening that we need to figure out how we can support our community. Other things that are out there is that the community works together. You know, we have our community partners, we have volunteers who are from the line that says, hey, I want to be with you. I want to help you, walk with you through all this. When it was just a small amount of volunteers, 100, 200, 300 volunteers. It doesn't matter where we're going. We're going to Bremerton today. You see a whole bunch of us. Hey, no, we're going to Everett today. You see a whole bunch, because they want to make a difference in the community. And so that being said, is like, being a mobile food distribution, going around to make sure that all these communities are being fed, it makes a worldwide of a difference of what we do in our community.
Thank you very much.
So real quick, just, I know, I'll make this very quick. I just wanted to say thank you. You know, with all this We Feed WA, it's amazing. You look at the word, the saying goes, We Feed Washington. It doesn't cover just one side of the county, but it covers pretty much the entire Pacific Northwest. So thank you for making an impact in our community. Thank you for your part as well, and thank you for having us here. All right, there you go.
So, I think, we're just about out of time, unfortunately, but, I think the part that we really wanted to do was connect with, if there's growers who are interested in participating in this program. You know, maybe afterwards you can connect with Jill and Jeremy about specifically how to do that. She mentioned, East West Food Rescue, which is a group that I do volunteer work for, and we're getting produce in large scale and giving it to organizations like Lend a Hand. So it's a very empowering program. The whole thing is, you know, it feels like, to me, like a daisy out of the dust kind of thing, because it's, with all the pandemic and learning of all the hunger, we're all in the same boat. Is there something else you'd like to add, Jill?
Yeah, something somebody said once to me that really resonated was that food is peace, right? It is security. If a person that doesn't have food, that has to go back to their family and just say, I don't know, I don't have anything, is capable of great recklessness, right? When there's tumult in society, knowing that there is a layered safety net, even the people that aren't getting in line to receive the boxes, they drive by and they know that if they hit hard times, their community will come around with them. So I think are really powerful. There are many programs, and it is good business to do good. Because of organizations that are volunteer driven, like Lend a Hand, the cost for this distribution is very low to the state. It's not like they have to have an infrastructure of a food bank, right? So the money that they save in not having to have refrigerated storage, and not having to have their own trucks truck it around, and not having to have employees to do the work that Jeremy and I do, and that, you know, Fia and Vicky do, makes these box programs worthy of enduring. But we have to wave our arms all the time and say, these matter. These matter. People depend on these. These do good, and not just for business. I mean, we're a for-profit business, but it's not about us being a continuing business for a long time. It's about doing the greatest good possible right now in this moment when we need it.
So, thank you very much. Thank you. And if I don't know if we have time for questions.
Yeah, we have about 25 minutes.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So, questions?
Actually, no question. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you just think about like the risk of scaling up and timing with crop planning and all of this? Can you speak to the funding cycles and your contracts are 1 year typically?
Sorry. So there's all kinds of different contracts that come all over, and that's kind of our job to look out for those and to catch them and to find out who's doing grants. What's happening now is there are a lot of grants available that go to nonprofits. So nonprofits are able to get their own grants, and then they're able to come to us or another box packer or Diana East West and say, here are my needs and here are my budget. And so the funding can come directly from the federal agency, it can come from the state, it can come from the county, but it can also come from nonprofits themselves who can show that the work that they've done over the year, and they can earn the support of their local, local sources.
And did you mean contracts with the state or
Yeah,
contracts with the growers?
like all of our funding is typically calendar year, and
No,
that's
these
not,
programs are much shorter usually, or they're based on the amount of money, granted. So maybe somebody gets a $50,000 grant. Well, what do you want? Do you want to do 1,000 boxes every week for 4 months, or do you want to do 5,000 boxes for 1 month? It's the customer decide, it's the length of time the program needs to span divided by the amount of funding in the program that helps us determine how big these production box runs are.
That's one of the things that we're dealing with the We Feed WA program. There's the the contract itself written with 26 different entities. We're just one of those. Awarded. So for our contract, it's stated that we can either do bulk product or food boxes, but the time length for it is between November 1 of 2021 through the budgetary year for the state, which was June 30 of 2022. The problem with this contract, which is a problem with any contract when you're talking about trying to serve a community, is that the funding level is low to be able to spread it out that far. And so what you end up doing is shortening the length of what the delivery time is. And right now we're putting a lot of focus on pressuring the legislature to come up with additional funds for this program. So we've essentially set up this program to run right up through March. And then April, May, and June, the funding will be used up at that point. And the hope is that we can raise enough awareness that we can pull up the website if it's available there, to really go to your legislature and say, look, this is an important program. This is a program that keeps the peace within my neighborhood. This is a program that feeds your constituents. This is a program that takes care of farmers. This is a program that takes care of people, and it does it in a financially responsible way. You need to continue this program. You need to appropriate more money towards it. And the current funding for the Wheat Feed WA program overall is $13 million, which is a lot of money and is not a lot of money. And so we need them to recognize that we've done a lot with this, and we can do a lot with it, but we're going to need more to do more, because the need is that great. Prior to the pandemic, I was working in, all my business was wholesale produce. I had no idea about the food insecurity that was in the state, and then getting into these programs and looking around and seeing it and recognizing that there's a lot of it now that's pandemic related, but it was there before. There were people that did not have food before the pandemic hit, and now it's just expanded those numbers. And so the only way that we're going to do it is by having the state fund that. Ideally, the best way to have it done would be federally funded. We had that with the Farmers to Family program, and that worked out okay. But we elect them to take care of us, right? And so we just need them to do their job, and we have to tell them what the job is that we need them to do.
So let me do a quick video because that fits in perfectly. It's less than a minute.
Okay.
But it's a commercial basically it's a call to action that will go out on social media on Monday. And what it is we need to make this video go viral so that the legislature sees that the food crisis is not over. There continues to be dollars in the CARES Act and an Economic Recovery Act. And they will direct those dollars elsewhere if we don't make them aware that this problem is still there. So we had this video produced, and it would be fantastic as advocates of the program to have everyone who is, Facebook or Instagram savvy to go to Cascadia Produce. We're going to post it Monday, and like and share this video, interact with it. We're trying to do, work the Facebook algorithms, because when enough people interact with the video, Facebook goes, oh, this is popular content, and they start sharing it themselves. They start suggesting it to people. This is how you get the attention of legislatures, by making many people call their office, by making people clamor to have their tax dollars spent in this way. So a quick video, and if it resonates with you, I urge you to look for it on Monday, post it on the Cascadia Produce website or Facebook page. University of Washington and Washington State WA Food survey that took place throughout the pandemic over the course of 2 years. So that is not cherry picked data. That is the data.
Thank you.
You had a question.
That was pretty much my question, just, you know, all of us knowing, especially here who attend this and we're in the food systems world, that like the need has always been there, you know, there's always been reasons for people not to be able to get to food banks or need food that doesn't come from the food banks, and just, yeah, wondering how we can all make this funding sustainable and federally funded, and so that it doesn't go away once the pandemic, if it ever, you know, is under control. Like how does that, you know, become sustainable? How do all your programs become sustainable?
This has been one thing that we've been dealing with Farmers to Family from the start. It was when that program initially came out, it came out in May of 2020, and it was June and July was the award program, or was the award timeline. And at that time I went through and I priced it out. I was in my basement timing myself on my phone what it would be like if I were 12 people on a line putting 12 items in a box. And like, well, I guess that's what it is now. That's that. So we started off with what I thought was reasonable to do. We partnered with Mosby Farms because they had crew that was available to pack boxes, and we were doing 4,000 boxes every week at that point. I bought the cheapest roller table I could find because after July I had no idea what was going to go on, but I had to have a table at least. Then it went for 2 more months, and then they came out with round 3, and round 3 went mostly off to Cisco and bigger companies like that. Then we had round 4, and that round 4 was a month and a half.
And we could never plan.
How do
we
you
could
plan
never,
for that?
Yeah, we
You
could
can't buy trucks. You can't hire people. You can't build a cooler if you only have a month and a half. And so it became this. I mean, for a lot of it was like a leap of faith, really. Like, we got a better roller table because maybe it'll go on. And it ended up going, then that program went, there was a round 5 that was half of January, February, and March. And then in the middle of March, they said, oh, we're gonna go for April. And in the middle of April, they said, oh, we're gonna go for May. And it's like, again, it's this planning part. And to think about it from us, from having to do it, well, buying a table, I mean, you go to the Uline website and you click on buy a table and a table shows up. But when you're talking to a farmer about that, plant something now with the faith that there will be a sale. And this is what farmers do all the time. But now talk about the 45,000 boxes a week that we were building. And I want you to go out and plant 45,000 something with the hope that when it finally is ready for harvest, there'll be a sale. And we know you've been doing 4,000, but you're gonna do 45,000. Like, it's insurmountable to put that kind of pressure on a farm, to have that kind of a leap of faith with their livelihood. And so this is why we want to get it as a budgetary line item, because then it's just, this is what happens. This is a plan. We know this is going to be needed. The economic crisis, from the housing crisis, we were talking to one guy running a food bank in Walla Walla, and he says, oh yeah, it took 7 years for us to get back to the same levels that we were at before that crisis, because this is bigger. This is way bigger. So we need a line item. We need 10 years of a line item at least. So then I can go to Amy and say, hey, this is what we're doing for 10 years.
We were able to do that a little bit at the beginning of the We Feed WA contract this summer. We were able to contact a farm in Walla Walla and have her plant lettuce that came in a few months later, and we used that for whole production runs. Like, sometimes we're able to do that. But I think what we learned from all of this unable to see the future is that network and relationships are incredibly important. You have to look around for who already has the facility. You have to look around for who already has trucks. You have to, You have to see your network like a constellation of stars and figure out how things can best click together to help all, right? And we just have to demonstrate over and over the value of these programs so that it doesn't make any sense for them to spend their money a different way because they're not getting as much for it. They're not, like, we look at the goals of the WSDA and say, how do we make those goals part of our proposal? So that when we get the spot, so that these box contracts are the obvious choice when they have money to spend. But there are other opportunities too that we can pursue. Like we had some boxes go to workers on a farm, like migrant workers that came up to an Eastern Washington farm, right? And then there was quarantining happening, right? So they couldn't necessarily leave that farm and go into town to get food. So so that farm privately sourced food boxes to be delivered there. Like, there are other avenues where these make sense, and I do think that society has been a little bit retrained to like things delivered. We do a program with United Way of King County, where not only do we do food boxes, we do 4 types of culturally relevant food boxes. So we do a halal box, we do a AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander box, we do a Latinx box. And these boxes are picked up by DoorDash drivers, and these DoorDash drivers take them, because I think DoorDash has a grant, and take them directly to the doorsteps of people that are infirm or elderly or, you know, can't leave their house for any reason. So
I think one thing that was that struck me about a conversation I had with you recently, Joe, was that, well, you may be buying, you know, 400 cases of something from Carpenito or 100 cases from us, but you're also buying 70 bunches of something from another farm. So things are doable without having to make that large mini acre commitment.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them so awesome.
And I mean, make it easy for us if you can. Like, they're located near us. So, I mean, not super near us. We have to drive from Auburn to Puyallup, but that's not too onerous. Whereas Bill with Sky Island Farm, he's on Hoquiam, right? So pretty hard for us to send a truck out there. But Bill delivers not only to us, but directly to the partner production facility. So gosh, that's easy. It's easy to say yes to Bill delivering product because he just takes it right to where we need it to go. And we can pay him a little bit more because we don't have to send an employee, we don't have to send a truck. Like, that saves us time and effort. Makes it a pleasure to work with Bill of Sky Island Farms, you know? So,
I was going to totally change the topic, so you should finish what you were saying.
Well, I'm just saying, you don't know until you start what barriers are in front of you, right? So Francis, we mentioned earlier, couldn't afford wax boxes, or that was a great expense for him. But just by talking to him, we realized we had a resource that we could freely give to him, black collapsible crates, and we could use those again and again. Kamal of Sadhu Farms, he wasn't able to cool his berries after picking them right away, right? They had to, they would stay out in the sun while they finished harvesting, and then they would get, you know, mushy a little bit faster because they weren't rapidly cooled. Well, we had a Sprinter van that didn't have a transmission, couldn't go up a hill. It was just useless to us.
It ran fine.
It was useless, and but it had a refrigerating unit, and so we were able to be like, oh, Kamal, take this, have it creep behind you as you pick berries, and then problem solved. Like, there's so much that can be solved through simply listening and finding out what resources are available. And we've helped a lot of farms, but to be honest, it hasn't really cost us anything. It's been a partnership where we also benefited. It's not like we're being, you know, super generous saviors. We're just finding out how these things click together efficiently, taking the time to do that.
No, go ahead.
I had a question specifically for the Lend a Hand ladies. You talked about this sort of mobile distribution that you're doing. It looked like on the slide that they were in kind of parking lots or churches sort of all over. Yes. I'm curious how you make the connection to like know that there's enough space there before you arrive, yes, and also how you distribute and disseminate that information to the community that you're going to serve that's around there. And, yes, and sorry, one more level of that question. Do you collect any type of information for reporting so that you can kind of give that to Cascadia, yes, or anybody to continue these grants?
Thank you so much for that awesome question. It's the common one that we get all the time. So we build relationships, like what she mentioned, we get to know people. You never know who you meet along the way. Let's say, for instance, one of our partners you know, one of the churches in Pierce County in Tacoma area, which is Church for All Nations. We utilize this lot every Friday to do our food distribution, which can hold up to between 300 or 400 cars in the lot. So what we do is we use a portion of it to do our setup, and then you're welcome to check out our Facebook page. That we take photos and we kind of give for people that want to visual, you know, see how it looks like. But we use a portion of it to do our setup, and then Miss Vicky Navarro, the lady with the whistle, she's the one that designates the traffic, of course. But it's a huge church. I can't say exactly, but it probably can fit like up to like 400 or 500 vehicles. So you do the visible thing there, but it's how we get these locations. We gotta do our homework, right? We gotta go talk to people, put it out there on media. Thank goodness for social media. When you put it out there, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, people respond, because then they know they speak on behalf of their community. We need help here, so well, okay, we need help also. We need a location, and so. Those are some of the locations where we do our events that are in Bremerton also. It's in this huge open lot, that they hardly use. They have businesses there, but we've used that as one of our distribution point. But we serve pretty much, like, just to give you an idea, every week in a day alone, we serve up to, I'd say, well, in a week alone, up to 3,000 plus individuals. How we do our data, so what we do is there's no special requirements. Like I said, we're not a food bank, but we had to create a data of some sort. We don't need your first or last name, but if you can kind of give us like a number of people in your household, it'll give us an idea of how many people we're feeding every week. So we get that number and we give it to Jill and Jeremy with Cascadia so that they can have a good idea of how many people we're feeding, because I'm sure it'll help them on top of every other organization they serve and the amount of people they serve. That's how we do our data. We create this simple thing with the survey. Also, how is our service? Are you okay with the service? But don't get us wrong. We also face challenges because people are coming there. They're stressed, depressed. Believe it or not, we also have people that just, but I hope that answers your question. But that's how we create our data and to get the numbers. No personal information, just the number of people. And then we also give them the opportunity to, if they're picking up for other families who aren't able to transport, so we give them a little extra. But they are incredibly amazed with, with We Feed Wa, food boxes that we've been getting, so we are amazed ourselves when we open up those boxes.
If you look up here, like here's a couple examples. This is like Linda Hand level. This isn't Linda Hand. This is a operation out of Battleground, Washington, down in Clark County. But this is the level. They bring the boxes to the parking lot. They keep them as cool as possible. We usually keep them on pallets and wrapped to retain the coldness of the pallet. We drop them. They queue up cars. These people are waiting. By the way, nobody gets in line and waits for food if they don't need it. There's no need for us to verify that they need food. If they're willing to be here to receive it, then we know that they need that food. They come through here, they get a box, it is super efficient, they roll away. They might give away an entire semi, which might be 1,100 boxes in 90 minutes. It's very
even
fast.
in less than an hour, believe it or not.
Our problem is never having leftover food. This is another one, this is a scrappy little organization of Ukrainians in Eastern Washington. They are some folks that don't want to be on record. They don't want to go to a food bank. They don't want to show ID. Like, they're fiercely private, but they will come and pick up 300 boxes. They source their own truck. They show up and they take it to grandmas all over Eastern Washington. They send us pictures. They're so happy with their cabbage. They're almost smiling. So this is our front yard stand. Here's Jeremy here. We pack all these boxes and we often have just like leftovers. So we bring it home and we just have a constant free food stand on North Delridge. Right?
Oh, I ride right past your house. From
Yeah.
Mexico.
It's Caravan's carrot stand out in our front
Yeah,
yard.
I ride right past your house almost every single day on my way to work.
Stop by and visit.
I will.
So this came about with that when we're packing boxes, like a standard pack on say kale would be 24 count, and if you're doing 25 boxes, well, you're gonna break into that next box and then you're gonna have 23 extra in it. You're not using kale in the next run. You have 23 bunches of kale. What are you gonna do with it? And we live in North Delbridge in West Seattle. We did not take the lower bridge to get up here today. But there's food insecurity everywhere, and so we're able to see it in our own neighborhood. And so I was like, well, I can help out the people that are around me just easily enough by taking the stuff that we would have had to figure out an inventory for, and I can just wipe the inventory on it, and I can put it out in my front yard. And yesterday I had a guy come up to my door. It's been a couple of days since I've been down to my warehouse, and he knocks on my door and he's very apologetic, and he said, I'm really sorry, I know I was just wondering the next time you were gonna have more food boxes out, because I don't mean to bother you at home. I'm like, oh, no, it's no problem. I'm going down to the warehouse after this. We're going to the warehouse to go pack boxes. And I said, we'll have stuff, more stuff here. It'll be back in the evening. You can feel free to come pick it up. So it's, the people in the neighborhood have now really come to love it and use it as the resource that it should be to help out our neighbors. And one thing that I've noticed for sure when we talk about food is peace. We can leave things out on our front yard and nobody messes with it. We've got neighbors who have had propane tanks stolen and little things like that. Nobody messes with Caravan Stand.
No vandalism over years.
And there's the RVs that are down the street, right? They come over to the stand to pick up food, and we're not food policing anybody. We've got one guy who drives a gold minivan up every morning. He stops off, picks up a couple of things, and drives off to work. It creates peace. It creates a sense of community. We get, going and helping out like this is.
I also want to point out another avenue that we use to support farms is that our packing houses are often outsourced to farms. Mosby has a huge space. They have a huge refrigeration. They have farm workers that can't work year round. They pack boxes for us. Sound Sustainable Farms, who I believe many of you may have toured on Friday, they don't pack the same boxes that we're all getting, but King County has a grant, it's for the last few years, where you can do food boxes, but they all must be sourced from within King County. It's a small program. We call them Sound Sustainable Farms. They have been consistently building and delivering boxes under this program. We do a small surcharge on top, and then we handle all the paperwork, because the paperwork is onerous. Like the paperwork for all of these programs and the contracts, they suck, Jeremy's up late at night, like literally, sleeps 4 hours a night most night because he's doing the paperwork, but he is enabling businesses to do what they do best. And he is taking on the paperwork burden to complete all these contracts. So we have another packing house in Eastern Washington. It was Cherry Farm. So he's packing boxes for us. That's going great. Well, he also had cherries that are seconds. They're malformed cherries. Cherries are, as you know, like a very luxurious food. Well, now we get to take this sort of imperfect cherries that he can't sell at market, or he could, but it would be higher effort. And we get to put cherries in boxes. Like partnerships, connections, synergies. But we have to know about you and what you have and what you do.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. This has been a great workshop, and please fill out your evaluations and give them to, you're going to collect them, is that right?
Sorry, what did you say the social media was for the video that's coming
Cascadia
tomorrow?
Produce. We're Cascadia Produce. We have a Facebook page. We don't post a lot. Like you're not going to see us up in your feed all the time, right? We're just really experimenting on the power of social media, and can we get this video high visibility, and can it make a difference? So we could use any help that you have.
And if anyone's got a friend in the governor's office, that would also.
Yeah. Anybody who's on as Jay or Joe or anybody like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you bring to my cooler.
I think I've got a chip that's coming to you. It got delayed to
that's
be
great.
easy online.
Hey,
It's all screwed up.
I'm not very on it. Yeah, no, listen. I'm a slow bookkeeper, so truly, I'm always like, oh.
Yeah, how I became aware of you guys, I was at West Seattle. Yeah, Marion Anderson, that he was
Are you still double jobbing?
But that's how desperate, I mean, we were desperate, we were cruising farmers, we were just trying to find somebody to sell to.
I tell everyone about you. I'm like, they'll buy what you have. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do.
However it looks.